What is up, everybody? My name is Nate, and I am so excited to welcome you to the first episode of my new podcast, The Chokehold Hour. In this podcast, I will be discussing anything and everything combat sports related, so let's jump right into it. So today, for the first episode, we're going to be discussing an absolutely awesome fight night last night between Chito Vera and Corey Sandhagen. So, Corey Sandhagen put together a masterclass tonight. I don't really know what else to say. He showed all of his facets of the game, all of his skills. Corey Sandhagen is not just a striker, ladies and gentlemen. I think there were a lot of questions about his grappling, especially after that Aljo fight where he got choked out in the first round about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I think he answered those questions tonight. His pressure and his pace, it was just too much for Chito, who seemingly was confused all fight. He couldn't really return because of Corey's diverse skill set. I really was impressed with Corey's lateral movement and backwards movement, just his movement in general around the cage and his ability to lure Chito into traps. I think Chito is used to being the aggressor. He's the guy who moves forward, and in this case, against a guy like Corey Sandhagen, who's such a technical fighter, it was very difficult for him to be a pressure fighter because Corey Sandhagen was able to lure him into traps every time Chito tried to come forward. And then when Chito was on his back foot, that was not good for him either because he was not able to use any of his power shots like his hook kicks or his nice combos. He couldn't really get the hands going because Corey pressured him against the fence. I was really, again, impressed with the pressure and pace of Corey Sandhagen. I have not seen him display that type of cardio. I know he went to war with Peter Yan for 5 rounds. That was a wonderful fight. He displayed his striking cardio in that fight, but wrestling cardio, it's a different thing. To be able to shoot takedowns all fight, that's something you're drilling constantly in the gym. You can't just do that. And I was really impressed with Corey's ability to just constantly be shooting, taking Chito down effortlessly. It didn't seem like there was much resistance on really any of the takedowns. And I think Chito just kind of felt overwhelmed. I think Chito didn't have any answers to Corey's movement and his output. He's usually able to start slow and heat up against a guy like Corey Sandhagen, who just constantly kept coming towards Chito and hitting Chito. Chito didn't really have time to heat up. He was too busy focusing on defense and getting out of the way of Corey Sandhagen's strikes and takedowns. I think Chito just did not have enough processing time to react and return fire against a guy like Corey Sandhagen because he was constantly throwing different tricks and skills in Chito's face throughout the whole fight. Corey Sandhagen has a very diverse MMA skill set, and I think we saw that to the fullest extent last night. So now can we talk about the judging? How is it possible that someone scored that fight for Chito? I mean, come on, 48-47 Chito? Marlon Chito Vera is a great fighter, ladies and gentlemen, but he did not do enough to win that fight, not even close. Now, can I see an argument for Chito winning round 3? Maybe. If you look at the significant strikes, I believe it was somewhere between around 32-19 still advantage to Sandhagen, so I really think that it was 50-45. But I see an argument. Chito, he built some momentum in that third round. He landed a nice 1-2. You could tell Corey felt it. He was a little blinky after the shot. You could tell the shot sat a little bit. But I don't really see... I don't know. That round 3, it could have gone either way. But I do not see an argument for Chito winning that whole fight. I don't know how you can give Chito 3 rounds in that fight. And I think judging is just... It's been really questionable in MMA as of late, especially. I think there have been a lot of robberies, a lot of questionable decisions that have upset the MMA fan base, and I really think something needs to be done about the judging. Maybe you can have former fighters judging fights instead because they know what's going on in the octagon, but as someone with no experience judging fights, and I don't really know how difficult it is to judge a fight, I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not the guy to be judging an MMA fight, but I do think we can't keep having these controversial split decisions and victories where the wrong fighter was awarded the win. I mean, 48-47 Chito in a fight where Corey just outclassed him in every aspect of mixed martial arts. I just don't see how that could happen, and there's something needs to be done about that. I'm not sure what needs to be done, but something needs to be done about the judging situation in MMA and the UFC specifically. Now, what's next for the bantamweight division? That is an interesting question. There's a lot of possibilities. This division is stacked right now. I mean, we have the fight at the Prudential Center coming up between Aljo and Henry Cejudo. I think that fight is really going to set the wheels in motion for everything else in the bantamweight division, because if Aljo wins, he's gone. He moves up, and he is not fighting in the bantamweight division anymore. Henry's out of the picture because he just lost for the title fight. I think if Aljo wins and moves up, you can probably book Sean versus Corey for the title. I don't think Merab is going to get the title shot at this point. I think his style is not that entertaining. I love Merab. I think he's a great fighter. But Dana White, he hasn't always been the most keen when it comes to wrestlers. So I don't think Merab is going to get that title shot, especially because he has the chance to take that title shot right now, and he is choosing not to, which I fully support. I respect the brotherhood of Aljo and Merab. I think it's so honorable that Merab is not fighting for the title because it is his brother who has the title. But I don't think Dana likes what's happening right now, and I think Merab is going to get skipped for the title shot because of that. And Corey versus Sean, the styles just make for an awesome fight. You have two incredibly talented kickboxers, and a guy in Sean O'Malley who we saw against Peter Yan. He has the ability to get up and escape when he's in sticky situations on the ground. He showed flexibility and knowledge of positioning on the ground to get back to the feet against the guy who is a skilled grappler like Peter Yan. Peter Yan obviously is not a grappling specialist, but he is a skilled grappler, and I think Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen would be an amazing fight. It would be probably the most technical kickboxing match of the year. I would love to see that fight happen. Now, if Henry Cejudo wins, then it's a different story. I'm not really sure what happens then. I think immediately after, I think Sean O'Malley is next in line for the title, no matter what, because he is a huge draw. Dana loves him. He is an awesome striker. Everybody loves to watch Sean O'Malley. So I think no matter what happens, he's going to get that next title shot. Now, if Henry wins, they're going to book Henry and Sugar. And now what do you do with Corey, a guy who just beat Cheeto? He also TKO'd Song Yadong by Dr. Stoppage 2 fights ago now. Corey's on a streak. He's putting good wins together. I think you have to book Corey and Merab if Sugar is going to be fighting Henry for the title. Corey versus Merab would be a great fight because Corey Sandhagen throws great knees, which is a great neutralizer to a guy like Merab who likes to shoot constant takedowns. When those knees are firing at you, when you're coming into those knees, the knee doesn't even need to be full power. If Merab shoots for a takedown and Corey just uses that momentum to bring Merab right into a knee, it's not going to be good for Merab. Now, do I think that will likely happen? No. Merab has incredible cardio. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to set up takedowns. I don't think he's going to run into a knee, but I am just saying the styles of the two guys play out for an incredible fight, especially because Corey, he showed he can grapple. He showed he's not just going to lie there for 5 rounds and allow Merab to control him for the whole fight. So I do think that if Henry Cejudo somehow beats Aljamain Sterling, they're going to book Henry and Sugar, and then they're going to have Merab fight Corey. Winner of that is next in line for the title. Now, what is next for Chito Vera? That I don't really know. That's a tough question. You got to think. He's coming off of a strong performance against Dominic Cruz. He knocked him out. He beat Rob Font before that. But there's a lot of guys ahead of him right now. Chito, I think he's going to have to get 2 to 3 wins now to get back to title contention. I'm not saying he's totally out. Maybe not 3 wins. He's probably going to have to get 2 wins. I think at this point, Sugar Sean, Corey Sandhagen, Merab Dvalishvili are all ahead of him for a title shot. So I think he's going to need a few wins to get back to that title contender status, that number 1 contender status. And I think that Sugar is definitely going to fight for the title next, which is incredible for the UFC, incredible for mixed martial arts. I think that's going to draw a lot of eyes to the sport, and I am beyond excited to watch Sugar Sean O'Malley fight for the title. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Henry Cejudo is making his return to the ring against Aljamain Sterling. I am beyond excited for that fight. Hopefully I will be there in person at the Prudential Center, being able to give you guys live updates of that fight. So yeah, that's going to be really fun. That's going to be an awesome fight. And now, after discussing the bantamweight men's division, we're going to jump on over to the bantamweight women's division, where the co-main event took place between Holly Holm and Yana Santos. Now, Holly Holm looked incredible in this fight, guys. I mean, are you kidding me? Now, Holly Holm I don't think she ever lost her stuff. If you look at her last losses, like against Caitlin Vieira, I don't think Holly Holm looked bad that fight. In fact, I think there was an argument for her to win that fight. It really could have gone either way. So I don't think Holly Holm I don't think she ever was out of title contention or out of the picture. I just think she had a bad decision go her way, and she still had the skill. I think she's fresh on a new deal, I believe now, a new 6-fight contract, more motivated. There's more money in the picture. Holly Holm looked dangerous last night. Yana Santos did not stand a chance in that fight. Now, I will say a lot of people are scoring at 30-26, 30-27. I do think there's a chance it could have been 29-28 or 29-27. I think Yana Santos possibly stole that first round, maybe with the amount of pressure she was able to apply. I mean, you have to remember she held Holly against the fence for a good 3.5 minutes. The majority of that first round, 75% of that first round was all Yana Santos. Was she doing damage? Not necessarily, but she was in control of that fight. Now, after those first 3 minutes, Holly Holm took over for the rest of the fight. That was it. I mean, boy, did she look incredible. I was extremely impressed with her ability to grapple. Holly Holm, as we all know, she's a striker. She transferred over from boxing. She knocked out Ronda Rousey with that iconic head kick. She is a striker. But boy, last night did she show an understanding for positioning on the ground. I was beyond impressed with her ability to use her wrestling and transition into positions like the crucifix and put Yana Santos in positions where she really couldn't defend herself and Holly could just rain down strikes. I mean, there was a second in that second round when Holly Holm had Santos in that crucifix. I thought that fight was going to be called. Holly Holm was just raining down blows to the head. They were defenseless. Yana Santos was not responding to those blows for, I think it was a good 40 seconds. Now, eventually she was able to squirm out of danger before the referee called that fight and make it to the end of the round. But boy, I really thought that fight was close to being called in the second round. I mean, Holly Holm, she looked incredible last night. I mean, when you're getting a 30-26 at the end of the fight from a judge, it was a dominant fight. She left no question. She is still a contender. Now, what is next for Holly Holm? It's a tough question because before this she lost to Caitlin Vieira, but she's now ranked ahead of Caitlin Vieira. I believe it is you have the champ, Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena, who's going to fight Amanda next, and then right after that you have Raquel Pennington, and then there's Holly Holm. And actually, Caitlin Vieira is right after Holly Holm. So I think you could do a few things. Holly Holm, I think, honestly, because she's a big name, she's a big draw, a lot of people know who she is. If she wants, she might be able to wait it out and get that next title shot. I don't think that is a far-fetched possibility. Now, do I think she wants to wait it out? No, I don't think Holly needs any more ring rust. She's been out of the game for a little bit. This is kind of her return tour. So I think she wants to fight. I think a good fight, you could do a rematch versus Caitlin Vieira because I think she won that fight possibly. There was a bad decision, poor judging. Now, maybe not poor judging, but it was a controversial decision. There were some MMA fans that felt that Holly Holm won that fight. So I think you can do that. But for Holly, I don't know how much sense that makes now that she's ranked ahead of Caitlin, especially considering she lost her last fight. It's high risk, low reward compared to sitting it out for a title shot. Now, her against Raquel Pennington, that is a different story. I think Holly Holm and Raquel would be an incredible fight. I think because Juliana and Amanda are going to fight. And no matter what happens, I think that is it in that chapter of MMA. This is the last fight between Juliana and Amanda. I don't think people are going to want to see that fight a fourth time. So I think this third fight is going to close that chapter. Now, Holly Holm, again, she can wait it out, try to get that title shot next. But her versus Raquel, she's not guaranteed a title shot next. If she beats Raquel, that's a guaranteed title shot, 100% hands down, because she's coming off of 2 impressive wins over top contenders. And Raquel Pennington, in fact, is the only contender who's ahead of her right now, other than Juliana Pena, who's fighting for the title. So I think her 2 best options are either fighting Raquel Pennington or sitting it out and waiting for the title. I don't think the Vieira rematch makes as much sense right now, but I do think that Holly Holm has a very bright future. Well, obviously, she has a bright past as well. She's already done so much for this sport. But once again, I think Holly Holm finds herself with a bright future in a position where she can fight for the title again. I don't think that is too far-fetched, especially with her popularity. She's a draw in women's MMA. Holly Holm is a very talented fighter, and I am beyond excited to see what's next for her. Now, I just want to say one last thing. Last night, what an incredible night of fights. Guys, fight nights are absolutely awesome. I try to tell everybody, you don't want to just watch these big pay-per-views. I love the pay-per-views, don't get me wrong. But fight nights, man, do they always deliver. Every fight last night was just an absolute banger. I mean, Nate Landwehr, he is so entertaining to watch. He is not necessarily one of the elite guys in his division, But every single time he goes out there, he gets hit, doesn't matter. He just keeps coming forward. You have a lot of these fighters that are not as big names on these fight nights, but they're extremely entertaining. I mean, what about CJ Vergara? That was possibly the comeback of the year. He got hit with a spinning heel kick, I think it was, in the first round, and he was wobbly. He went down. He was running away from his opponent, and he came back in front of his home crowd in San Antonio and got that TKO finish. That was awesome. CJ Vergara, that was an incredible win for him last night. Fight nights are just absolutely awesome, and I think that any MMA card of any promotion has the ability to deliver. MMA is such an unpredictable sport. You don't know who's going to beat who's going to win when, and I really think there's just so many benefits, and it's so entertaining to watch these fight nights and not just pay attention to these super big cards, So that's just my humble take on things. And guys, I just want to remind you are watching the Chokehold Hour with me, your host, Nate. And I just want to thank you guys for tuning into my first episode of this podcast. Hopefully, there will be many more to come. I'm really excited for the future of this podcast. I'm excited for our future as host and viewer to get to know each other better. And I'm excited for what's to come, guys. I think this is going to be this is the start of an awesome podcast, and I'm excited for what's next. So remember, everyone, you are watching the Chokehold Hour with Nate. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in. I mean, I appreciate it. I really do. And don't forget to go check out my TikTok, the Chokehold Hour, where I'll be posting some highlights from the podcast and some little mini clips if you missed out on anything or if you don't have time to watch the full 17, 18 minutes of this podcast. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. That is the Chokehold Hour.